Let's go imagining together to a place so old it's always new. We'll tell a tale, my friends, to you, and share a smile before we're through, and share a smile before we're through. Bum, 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 bum.
How many of you have favorite photographs? It might be a picture of a famous singer, or maybe your best friend, or maybe it's just a little photo of a pet. Well, a long time ago, if you wanted a picture of somebody, you'd have to ask a painter to paint the picture for you. And that was called a portrait. Now, today, Ray is painting a portrait of a woman named Bianchinetta.
Yes. Isn't she beautiful?
Very pretty. Well, Ray, when you paint a portrait, do you just copy what you see? Is that what it is? Or?
Well, that's part of it. But when a photographer or a painter does a portrait, they want to do more than that. They want to give you an idea of what that person is like inside, too, their character. And that's what I try to do when I paint a portrait.
Well, today's story is about a man who fell in love with a beautiful, gentle woman he saw in a portrait. And in his search to find her, he was tricked by an evil person. But the love of that portrait was there all the time to help him. This is the story of Bianchinetta.
There was once a lady who had 2 children, a son named Orazio and a daughter named Bianchinetta. They lived in a large island near Italy and were quite happy until one day when bad news arrived. All their money which their father left them when he died had been spent. It was all gone. Orazio, who was 18 at the time, told his mother and his sister that he would go out and find a job. He would send them money once a week and they would never be hungry. Orazio sailed to the mainland and went around the countryside until he found a young prince. The prince needed a valet, someone who would take care of his clothes and personal belongings. The prince was very pleased with Orazio. Orazio worked hard and saw to it that the prince was always comfortable. The prince led Orazio into a large, beautiful room. This was my parents' room when they were alive. They loved beautiful things, especially paintings. You see, they had very many paintings. Come, I want to show you a very special one. The prince led Orazio to an easel by one window. On the easel, there was a portrait of a beautiful girl. Orazio caught his breath. The painting was of Bianchinetta, his very own sister. The prince was exclaiming, "Isn't she beautiful? If only I knew who she is." My father's painter would never tell me her name, and now, like my father, he is dead. I shall never know who she is, and I am deeply in love with her. I know who she is. Orazio, tell me. She's my sister, Bianchinetta. I don't know how or when your father's painter found my sister, but there is no mistake. That is Bianchinetta. Oh, please, Orazio, I must meet her. Tell me that she's not promised to someone else. She is promised to no one. She lives with my mother. If you gave me money, I could send her a ticket for the ship which sails each week. Agreed. I shall give you all you need and more. Oh, to think that at long last I shall meet the lady who has captured my heart. When Bianchinetta received Orazio's letter and the ticket, she was overjoyed. She ran to tell her mother. For 3 days, Bianchinetta and her mother washed and mended and polished until Bianchinetta's wardrobe looked fine indeed. Bianchinetta's mother gave her a precious locket to wear on the voyage. This will be your good luck charm, for it belonged to your great-grandmother who married a prince. Perhaps you will too. Bianchinetta sailed the following day. There were many people on the ship, and everyone delighted in Bianchinetta's charm and her friendliness. There was one woman named Shamina who was very friendly toward Bianchinetta. She wanted to know all about Bianchinetta, her mother, her brother, her home, her village. She listened intently as Bianchinetta explained about the prince and the painting. Shamina smiled with her lips, but her eyes remained cold and distant. You are such a lucky girl, Bianchinetta. These wonderful things do not happen to many people. Oh, I know you're going to have a rich and full life as a princess. Now, tell me all about the locket. It is so beautiful. Bianchinetta removed the locket and opened it to show Shamina the pictures of her great-grandparents. Suddenly, Shamina grabbed the locket, and at the same time, she gave Bianchinetta a mighty push backward. Over the rail went poor Bianchinetta into the sea. Shamina laughed cruelly. "Ah, you fool! Didn't your mother tell you never to talk to strangers?" Shamina went to the cabin which held all of poor Bianchinetta's things. She put on Bianchinetta's clothes and then slipped the locket around her neck. She wrapped a turban around her hair and then put on a dark veil over her face. No one could tell exactly who she was. When the ship put into port, she recognized Orazio immediately from Bianchinetta's description. She rushed to him and took his hand. "Oh, Orazio, how good to see you again. Mother sends you a kiss, but I cannot deliver it right now. I got terribly sunburned on the voyage, and I'm afraid my face is not at its best. I hope the prince will understand." She sounded so much like his sister that Orazio was fooled. "The prince is eagerly awaiting our arrival. Come quickly. I have a coach. The servants will bring your trunks later." When Orazio presented his sister to the prince, she was as polite and as charming as the real Bianchinetta would have been. She apologized for wearing the veil and promised that she would soon no longer need it. Well, the prince was disappointed, but he was still happy she was there. "My dear Bianchinetta, I know you are tired and sore from the windy voyage. I have prepared a room for you. I hope you like it." Shamina was taken to her room. Once alone there, she took off her veil, let down her hair, and began preparing a poison which she planned to give to the prince and Orazio at dinner in their wine. With them dead, she would claim the castle, the whole kingdom, saying she was the prince's widow. Before going to bed, Orazio went over by the window to have a look at the lovely painting of Bianchinetta. As he drew near, he thought he heard a voice. Could it be coming from the painting? He leaned closer. It was a voice, Bianchinetta's voice. It spoke in a whisper. "She is not Bianchinetta. She is a murderer. I am Bianchinetta. I am in the sea. I am alive. Trust not the one who says she is Bianchinetta. She is Shamina, a murderer." That night at dinner, Shamina insisted on pouring the wine. Orazio watched her carefully. He noticed a quick movement she made with her left hand. It only lasted a fraction of a second, but it was there. She had put something in the wine. Oh, she was too charming as she handed the wine glasses to the prince and Orazio. "A toast," she said, "to the three of us." The prince lifted his glass to drink. Orazio thought fast. Suddenly, he threw his arm up as if to make a second toast. His hand knocked the glass from the prince, spilling the wine. "Oh, my prince, I'm so clumsy. Please forgive me. I only wanted to toast my lovely sister and insist that she be the first to taste the wine." "Oh, but brother Orazio, you know I don't drink wine." "Excuse me," said the prince, "but I must go and get a fresh shirt. I shall be but a moment. Then we can toast all over again. No harm done." When the prince left the room, Orazio turned a cold and searching eye to the woman across the table. "Who are you?" "Oh, don't be silly, Orazio. I'm your sister." Suddenly, Orazio grabbed her veil and ripped it away. "You are not Bianchinetta. You are a murderer. Here, drink this wine. I command you." "No, I will not." "Because it's poisoned, isn't it? You have no proof." When the prince returned, the two were shouting at each other. "Now, what's the matter here? Brother and sister fighting?" And then he noticed that the woman was not Bianchinetta. "Who are you?" Orazio turned to the prince. "My prince, please lock this woman away. She tried to murder my sister. She would have poisoned you and me. The portrait spoke to me, warned me against this impostor. Lock her away, and I shall go to the sea and find my poor Bianchinetta." So the prince locked Shamina in the tower. Orazio went to the seashore where he stood for long hours calling the name, Bianchinetta! Bianchinetta! On the third day, as Orazio was about to give up, Bianchinetta appeared. Dear Orazio, I am here. Orazio, filled with joy. Bianchinetta, it's really you. Oh, wonderful day. Oh, how I have grieved for you. Come, we must go at once to the prince. Oh, Orazio, I cannot. I am the prisoner of a sea monster. He has put a heavy chain on me. It would take a sword with the power of 100 swords to cut the chain, and a horse that is not a horse to free me from the monster. Whatever it takes, I shall free you from the monster. I shall be back tomorrow. Orazio rushed to the prince. Bianchinetta is alive, but she is chained to a sea monster. It will take a sword that cuts like 100, and a horse that is not a horse. Well, such a sword might be possible, for in my father's name a sword was made on the day of my birth. With it he was to protect me. Now it is mine. It is said to have a power of its own. Take it, Orazio. As to the horse which is not a horse, that is a riddle I don't understand. I think I understand, said Orazio. I only hope I am right. With that, Orazio took the sword and returned the next day to the seashore. He did not call Bianchinetta, but went directly into the water. The weight of the sword took him down to the very bottom of the sea. Strange creatures swam about him. The deeper he went, the stranger were the creatures. Then the one he had hoped to see was there, a seahorse, large and powerful. He mounted the seahorse, and they were off to find Bianchinetta. How they sped through the water. Eventually, they came to an underwater castle. There, by the entrance, sat Bianchinetta with the chain around her. Orazio wasted no time. He raised the sword above his head, and with all his power, he brought it down upon the chain. The marvelous sword did cut like 100, and the chain broke. Quickly, Orazio grabbed his sister and lifted her upon the seahorse's back. Off they swam, and none too soon, for the monster heard the chain break and came immediately. Oh, how horrible it was. All tentacles and eyes, its terrible jaws snapping, its voice a watery growl. With one tentacle, it reached for Bianchinetta. Orazio chopped at it with his sword. And suddenly there was another, and then another. As they raced through the sea, the monster was just behind, reaching and snarling. Orazio kept on slashing with his sword. As one tentacle was chopped off, it seemed like two more grew immediately in its place. Suddenly they broke through the sea's surface into the sunlight. As the sunlight struck the monster's eyes, it screamed in pain, for it could not stand the light of day. Orazio and Bianchinetta were free. They watched the monster fall back into the darkness below the surface. Soon the seahorse brought them ashore. Orazio thanked the seahorse and gave him candy and a loving pat on the muzzle. Then they were off to see the prince. Never had the prince been so happy. He and Bianchinetta fell in love. Shamina was taken from the tower and thrown to the sea monster. She was never heard from again. After the prince and Bianchinetta were married, he found a painter who added a portrait of the prince to the portrait of Bianchinetta. And for many long years, that is how they remained, happy and together.